The hard money lender is going to put a check and a balance in place so that they don't give you the money until the work is done. If you get all the money up front, it is your responsibility to not pay the contractor ahead of the work that is done. 100% key and critical. If you do that wrong, you go bankrupt. Hey, what's up, everybody? Rob Swanson back here with another episode of the Real Estate Mogul Podcast. Hey, in today's show, we're going to be talking about the differences between hard money and private money. Now, we're going to be talking about this because I see it all the time in both advertising from a lender's perspective as well as requests of borrowers looking for capital or looking for money for their real estate deals. There tends to be a confusion between what a true hard money lender is and what a private money lender is. Now, one of the reasons I want this to come to the surface and I want us to talk about it is it makes you more credible as a borrower when you understand what you're looking for. It makes you more credible as a lender when you understand what you actually are. Now, I get it. There's a reason that most of the time what would be considered a hard money lender advertises private money. And I'll even admit I'm somewhat guilty of this myself. And the reason for this is because most people, when they think about ejecting the banks from their real estate life, they think about wanting to go find private money. And most people then think private money is the capital that they're going to find by searching social media, by talking to people, by networking at local real estate clubs, by doing all of these things, walking up to a booth at a real estate conference and talking to the people behind the booth that say private lender, okay? Fundamentally, let me give you a differential between the two, okay? A hard money lender is in the business of lending. A private money lender is not in the business of lending. So let me explain what I mean by this. A hard money lender is in the business of lending, meaning they're looking for places to lend money. Oftentimes, a hard money lender is borrowing private money and then lending it as hard money. So they go out and they raise capital. And they go find private individuals that are not in the business of lending, a private money lender. They work out the terms of that arrangement, and then the hard money lender that is in the business of lending lends that money. That's how most hard money lenders work. They're lending someone else's money. Now, sometimes they're lending their own money, and the differential here, though, is that a hard money lender is in the business of lending. It's their business. They're actively looking for opportunities to lend their money. They're actively advertising. They're putting themselves out there saying, we have capital available. And that's great, because here's the thing that I want you to understand when it comes to capital and real estate investing. In most cases, it's not the cost of the capital, it's the speed and availability of the funds, right? So making 50% of something is better than making 100% of nothing, right? 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Now, there is a point of diminishing returns, right? And so if it's going to take you 6 months to make $10,000 and you're going to end up giving half of that money to your lender, I don't know that $5,000 net to you is worth 6 months. So there's a point at which you have to say, how long is this going to take? How much effort is this going to take? And how much profit is on the table, right? So you want to consider this point of diminishing returns. So hard money lender in the business of lending. Now, private money lender is not in the business of lending. They're relationship based. They're not advertising based. They're not setting up a booth at a conference. They're not going on podcasts and talking about their lending business. A private money lender is generally an individual or some organization that has capital that does not otherwise lend their money. And they may invest their money, they may do something, but they don't have the connections in the real estate investing world or space to lend their money until they meet you. So you're the bridge between a private money lender and putting their money to work into a real estate deal. Now, there are a couple of differences fundamentally between how a hard money lender and a private money lender work. And in general here, I'll kind of break them down. A hard money lender who's in the business of lending generally charges points. So a point is 1% of the loan amount. So if you borrow $100,000 and the hard money lender charges 3 points, they're going to charge you $3,000 up front. Now, they can structure the points in various ways. They could roll that into the back of the loan. They could roll it into the payments. They could charge it all up front as a closing fee. So a hard money lender is going to charge points. A private money lender is not going to charge points because remember, a private money lender is not in the business of lending. They're in the business of getting to know you and you introducing them to the opportunity of lending their money secured by real estate, covered by insurance at higher than market rates in an environment where real estate makes a lot of sense because you bought it at a discount. A private money lender is not charging you points. A hard money lender most likely is. It's also because most hard money lenders have different business model. They're oftentimes working with brokers. They're oftentimes funding their operations. And so the points that they charge pay their brokers and fund their operation because remember, again, they're in the business of lending their money. A hard money lender is going to fund a percentage of the purchase price. A hard money lender may lend and fund the entire 100% of the purchase price, but they may require some skin in the game. They may require a down payment. They may require you to put some money down to prove up that you've got some skin in the game. A private money lender does not. A private money lender is working off of the relationship. And so when you go to a private money lender, you let them know what capital you're looking for, what asset it's going to be secured on, what loan to value you anticipate it is, what repair costs are going to be, what holding and closing costs there are, and you go borrow usually the full purchase price of the loan, of the asset at closing. And so the difference between a hard money lender and a private money lender is one requires down payment and skin in the game, the other doesn't. Now, this fundamentally puts you in a position where you have to be ethical and you have to be moral and you have to be truthful because a private lender is relying on you as the real estate investor and your experience and knowledge to guide them well. And so it's incumbent on you to then do that and take the responsibility of placing someone's capital into a real estate deal and take that very seriously. Hey, do you have what it takes to build a successful real estate investing business or scale your existing business to the next level, but you feel like you've hit a brick wall and there's something holding you back? If you answered yes, then my team of experienced real estate investor business development consultants wants to talk to you. We want to talk about a hands-on learning experience where you'll put in the work and we'll guide you through every step to make money together. Our goal is to create success stories that we'll use to continue to grow the real estate mogul community. Plus, I'm always looking for ways to expand my real estate investing business into new markets, create more passive income, and expand my money lending business. So my team of professional real estate investor coaches are looking for ways to make more money by helping students close more deals. We put our heads together and decided to bring on a small number of folks into our community with the goal of creating your success stories each and every month. Now, this is not for everyone, and there are a few requirements to being accepted into the program. But if you're ready for the next level, are ready to join our success team and work directly with one of the experienced real estate investors on my team, and if you're willing to put in the work and follow our guidance, go to realestatemogul.com/success to learn more. You'll learn what I'm looking for, exactly how the program works, and what you'll get from us. You'll also learn what we expect from you. Do it right now. Go to realestatemogul.com/success, and I'll see you on the next page. Another difference is a hard money lender is generally going to require that you escrow or that they'll reimburse repairs. So take that scenario where you borrow $100,000 and maybe it needs $25,000 in repairs. A hard money lender is going to require you to go start the repairs, have some kind of a phased project where you go do the first $10,000, and once they can verify that that work is done, they'll reimburse you the $10,000 so you can do the next $10,000. They'll reimburse that, and then they'll do the final $5,000, and then they'll reimburse that at the end. And so a hard money lender is generally going to escrow repairs and or reimburse you for repairs along the process. Now, in that process, every time you make a draw request to reimburse repairs, they're probably going to charge you some type of a fee, some type of a draw, construction, inspection fee, or something to that effect. So remember, they're in the business of lending. A private money lender is going to lend you 100% of the money up front. So if it's a $100,000 purchase price and $25,000 in repairs, and let's say that there's a few $1,000s in carrying costs and that sort of thing, let's say you borrow $130,000. What's going to happen is, and the property, let's say, is worth, let's say that the property is worth $185,000 or something to that effect. So you're going to borrow $130,000 up front, and you're going to get all of that money at closing. $100,000 is going to go to the seller. $30,000 is going to go to you at closing. So it's going to be funds to borrower at closing. All of that money is going to go to you. Now, you've got to set that money aside and use it for the appropriate thing. These are the advantages of working with a private money lender, and why a private lender is based on trust, relationship, knowledge. I've worked with hundreds of private lenders, millions of dollars, and this is how I structure my deals, because there's trust, there's track record, there's transparency up front, right? So I think about those things as the 3 T's: trust, track record, and transparency. When those 3 things align and you have built that relationship with a private lender, your ability to take action fast, your ability to get the projects done quickly, pay your guys, move along, it works in your favor. Now, the key is that you have to be responsible, and you have to make sure that that money is going into the right place, right? The hard money lender is going to put a check and a balance in place so that they don't give you the money until the work is done. If you get all the money up front, it is your responsibility to not pay the contractor ahead of the work that is done. 100% key and critical. If you do that wrong, you go bankrupt. And that's not the place you want to go. That's not where your private lender trusts you to go. It's not where you want to go. So, another difference is just fundamentally, a hard money lender generally charges higher interest rates Because again, remember, they're in the business of lending. And what's happening is there's a private money lender oftentimes behind the hard money front end. And so maybe they're borrowing private money at 6, 7, 8%, and they're lending it out at 9, 10, 11%. They're making a few point arbitrage between them. And not only do they charge the points, but then they make a little spread on the payment structure itself. And so the hard money lender is setting the interest rate and setting the terms. And when you borrow from a hard money lender, in general, you're going to borrow at a slightly higher rate. Now, it happens occasionally that a private money lender will see a hard money lender's rates. They get introduced to you. You're having a conversation. They're interested in becoming a private money lender. And all of a sudden, they get this idea, I should go Google this. I should check this out. So they go Google private lending, and they start to see, these businesses that are in the business of lending are charging 10% or 12%, and they're charging 1 to 3 points or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden, the private lender gets this idea, I should do that. Well, what they don't understand is that the hard money lender's in the business of lending, and they're paying brokers and they're doing other things. And the private money that's behind the scene that's actually funding the deal is getting the same rate of return that you get over here when they work with you. And so you just have to be knowledgeable to explain that to them. And once you explain that to them, they understand it and they get it. And it makes a lot of sense. And I have rarely had that be an issue where somebody decided, you know what, I don't want to do this deal with you anymore. Because once they understand the business. And so this episode, this conversation is really helpful and relevant for whether you're the borrower trying to understand hard money, private money, and get the capital, or you're the lender trying to understand, am I getting a fair rate of return as a private money lender? When you see hard money lenders charging higher rates, you have to ask yourself, why are they charging those higher rates, and am I getting a fair return on my capital? And most often the answer is yes, because the hard money lender is in the business of lending, and they're charging points, higher fees, and higher rates of return, interest rates, in order to cover their operational expenses and make a profit. And underneath that hard money shell are the private lenders that are actually funding that business. And so one of the keys between a hard money lender and a private money lender is that as a hard money lender, they're setting the terms. And as a private money lender, you're setting the terms. Fundamentally different. Hard money lender is based on advertising and making capital available to borrowers and their own vetting of you. Now, both hard money and private money are what's known as asset-based lending. The lender is looking more at the underlying asset as their security, and the loan to value and the insurance that they get added as an additional insured on. They're looking at the asset as their primary security, more so than the borrower itself. So you as the borrower, you could have marks and dings in your borrowing past or in your scenario, or you may not have a whole bunch of money to jump in and put a big, huge down payment. But the reality is you got good at one thing. You got good at finding a good real estate deal. You understand how you're going to take it from point A to point Z and get it across the finish line profitably. And when you can explain that to someone, an asset-based lender, a hard money lender or a private money lender is going to look at that and say, what's my risk? What's my downside? Do I trust this person? And they go back to those things: trust, track record, and transparency. So trust, let's talk about these three for a minute. The 3 T's. And trust is something that is built, it's relationship based. And this falls in the private money lending world, but it also sits in the hard money lending world. A hard money lender is yes, in the business of lending, and they are going to lend money more times than a private money lender, oftentimes because they're out there making it happen. But they're looking for a specific type of loan to make, something oftentimes that's shorter term, that gets in and gets back out. A private money lender is kind of the opposite, right? A private money lender wants to put your money to work, and you don't want your money back. You want your money to work, be paying a monthly rate of return, a monthly cash flow, and you want the money to work for as long as possible because it's paying a nice yield, and it's safe, it's secure, it's covered by insurance. All of these benefits of investing in real estate. And so trust is that thing that is earned between you and the lender. And that trust comes from your being in business, your being upfront in what you're doing, you're not hiding something, and just how you present and come across. Now, the next is track record. And so a lot of times people will say, but I don't have a track record. And I haven't done a lot yet, or I've never fixed and flipped a house, or I've never bought and rehabbed a rental, or I've never done X, Y, or Z. One of the things, and one of the reasons that in the real estate mogul system of real estate investing, one of the reasons I focus on cash generation and that strategy up front is not only is it key to figure out how to increase and get a high income when you're a real estate investor, whether that's from inside of real estate investing or whether that's from outside, your job, your business, a sales gig, a side hustle. Somewhere you've got to have high income coming into your life. And so in phase one of the system, we talk about cash generation. Well, one of the strategies that we teach and we talk a lot about for cash generation is wholesaling. And so if you go find and flip a deal and find and flip another deal and find and flip another deal, pretty soon you begin to build the second T, which is transparency, or which is track record. The third T is transparency. The second T is track record. So if you go flip 1, 3, 5, 10, 12, 20, 30, 50 houses, and you can point to, I flipped that one to a local landlord, I flipped that one to a fix and flipper, I flipped that one and that one right side by side to a landlord, I flipped this duplex over here, and you can start to talk about the deals that you did and how somebody makes money with that real estate deal. You begin to build track record whether you've ever paid somebody to swing a hammer on one of your houses or not. And so it's why I oftentimes will utilize the strategy of wholesaling to get somebody in the game to begin building track record. And so trust is how you present yourself, your knowledge, your conversation, and the back and forth. Are you consistent in what you say and how you present? Track record, if you don't have it, comes from one of two places. It's either a borrowed track record. I have had people come to me many, many times where they don't have a track record, and yet they've got a deal, and yet it makes sense. And so they come to me and they borrow my track record. I get involved in the deal with them in some way that allows the private lender to be comfortable because I've done thousands of transactions, and all of a sudden they're comfortable, and it goes back to it's not the cost of the capital, it's the speed and availability of the funds. So if you can't build your track record through wholesaling or have a track record that you borrow by bringing somebody else in, you've got to step back and say, which one of those makes the most sense? How should I tackle this, and how should I go about this, right? Because track record can be built or it can be borrowed. And this is where you, as the real estate investor, once again, has to say, it's not the speed, it's not the cost of the capital, it's the speed and availability of the funds that matter. Because if the deal is good enough, the deal is good enough. And so building your track record by borrowing on someone else's track record is a great way to go. And it's why we here at Real Estate Mogul and inside of Mogul Nation are all about getting people connected. If you can borrow someone else's track record, it accelerates you through the process and through the journey of getting to that place in your real estate investing business where you can do the deal yourself and you no longer have to borrow. And so the final one then, we've got trust, we've got track record, and we've got transparency. When you package a deal for a private lender, put that deal together in a way that it makes sense to them. Make it simple. Show them what is the property worth fixed up. If it's a rental, how much gross income is it going to generate? What are the operating expenses? What are the estimated repairs? What are the holding and closing costs? And what is the purchase price? Be transparent in those numbers and be accurate. Be transparent and accurate in those numbers, and then show them the loan amount, the amount of money you're looking to borrow up front for that deal. Show them what total dollar amount, where that money is going to go, and what loan to value they're going to be secured by when this project, as this project goes along. If you do that, you're putting yourself in a position of, okay, you've built the trust, you've built or borrowed the track record, and now the transparency makes it a no-brainer to do business with you. So from here, what I want to do is I want to talk about briefly what a conversation with a private lender looks like. So now that we understand the difference between hard money and private money, and the conversation with a hard money lender looks like this: fill out our application, give it back to us, tell us what property you're looking to borrow against and how much you're looking to borrow and what your repair estimates are. We'll evaluate your application and we'll tell you if the loan is approved. That's what a conversation with a hard money lender looks like. And then they're going to tell you, you're approved and we need 10% down. You're approved and it's going to be 12% and 3 points. You're approved and they're setting the terms. So conversation with a hard money lender is an application process and you sitting back, crossing your fingers, hoping you get approved and hoping the terms that they come up with are reasonable. On the private money lending side, it's about you building the relationship and you doing one thing, and that is putting a program together that a private lender can step into. And so let me explain what I mean by that. When you sit down with a private lender and you begin talking to them about investing in real estate and lending their money secured by real estate, that private lender, if they're not in the business of real estate, that private lender doesn't necessarily know what questions to ask or how to even tackle the conversation. So it's your responsibility to walk them through the process. And so here's how I do it. Number one, I have a program built. So I know what type of capital I'm trying to raise. For me, most of the time, it is for longer term buy and holds if I'm building for my own personal portfolio. If I'm building for my hard money lending business, it's long-term capital that I'm going to put out in and out on shorter term real estate loans. So I know going in the various programs that I have available, and what that looks like for a private lender. So I talked to the private lender about how do we make money in real estate? The number one fundamental question that anybody needs to be able to answer when it comes to real estate investing, when they're looking at a deal, is how does someone make money on that property? Whether it's a house, an apartment building, a commercial building, industrial, mobile home park, mobile home, it doesn't matter. A real estate note. The number one question someone needs to be able to explain is how does somebody make money on this real estate asset? If you can explain that, a private lender is much more inclined to connect with you. Now, the reason we're talking about this is because in the last show, if you haven't listened to it, you should go back and listen to it. We talked about 3 ways to get to your first $1,000 a month net passive income. And the 3 strategies we talked about were all about using private money. And so a lot of people said, well, how do I go get the private money? Well, it starts by understanding the difference between hard money and private money, the things that we've been talking about. And now it starts with, how do I get into a conversation with private lenders, and what does that conversation look like? So when I sit down with a newer private lender, here's the fundamental thing that I start with. The first thing that I say is this, and we're going to pretend that I'm talking to Johnny, private lender, and I say this, hey, Johnny, listen, I get one thing, and I get that you right now, as you sit here and are considering your jump into real estate, you're considering that the thing that's most important to you is that you want to get a return of your capital before you get a return on your capital. What I mean by that, Johnny, is that you want to know, how are you going to lose your money? Am I right? And I'll ask that question. I know you're thinking that you're more concerned about a return of your capital. If I put $100,000 in, how do I get $100,000 back out? How do I not lose 50 grand and only get 50 out if I put 100 in, right? That's the conversation. So I start any conversation that I have with a private lender with the elephant in the room. And that is, you're concerned, Mr. Private Lender, with how do you lose money? And so then I tell them that I understand that. Now, let me tell you why I understand that. I understand that because that's how I think. As a private lender, as a hard money lender, and as a real estate investor that's done thousands of transactions, I understand that I have to be able to properly evaluate my worst day accurately and figure out, how do I lose in this deal? Investing is all about risk assessment. That is key. And so when you, as a newer investor or even a seasoned pro, are sitting down with a small or a large source of private capital, it doesn't matter. The first thing out of your mouth should be that you understand that they're concerned with a return of their money more than they are a return on their money. Now, that does not negate the fact that they want a return on their money. The reason they're having the conversation with you is because they see the benefits of private lending in real estate investing. But when you fundamentally understand that starting point, you then set up the rest of the conversation to show them how you're going to show them how they lose their money. The rest of the conversation is, I'm going to show you how to lose your money, and I'm going to show you all of the things we put in place to prevent that from happening. That builds trust. In that, you get the opportunity to talk about your track record. And it's completely transparent. So you go back to the 3 T's of private lending in this conversation. And so from there, you just start to break down the layers of how could they or would they lose money. And I'll tell you what I start with. I start with this. Number one, we find an asset, you fund it, and you send all of your money to the title company. That's one thing that I do tell them up front. The money is not being sent to me. The money is being sent to the title company so that from the title company, your money is secured by the real estate at closing. Now, any overage funds to the borrower then come to me after closing. After Mr. Lender, your money is secured. So I tell them the first thing that the way you could lose your money is I take that overage of $25,000 that's geared towards construction and I disappear to Bali and you never hear from me again, right? That would be one way to lose money. Now, if we don't have trust, if I don't have a track record and there isn't transparency, you're gonna say, I just ask, do you believe that I'm going to do that? And they oftentimes say no. And I say, okay, if I did, your money is still secured by the real estate. So you could then foreclose on the asset and get the asset and turn around and resell it to recoup your capital. Now, so I just start out there. The number one fundamental thing that you could lose from is if I'm unethical, if I'm a bad guy. The second thing is, let's say that you fund and we didn't put insurance in place and the house burns down. And now we don't have insurance. There's no property there left. The lot's only worth $10,000. Your loan was $100,000. Now you lose, right? So we make sure at closing that we have insurance bound and that you are named as an additional insured on the policy. So we walk through these various scenarios of how does somebody lose and how are they protected. And when we do that in a systematic way, people are like, oh, check, check, check. That makes sense. And we get to the end, and then we get to talk about our private lending program. And people generally have an easier time understanding how to participate in a program than they do just lending their money. So by creating a program, it, number one, is easier to explain. But in general, I've found that people, the way the human mind works is that the humans find it easier to see themselves participating in A, B, or C program versus lending their money at X rate or Y rate or on these terms or that terms. It gets convoluted when there are different scenarios, and it's very easy when those scenarios are packaged into a program. And so if you're going to go out and raise private capital, number one, understand how a private lender thinks, and they're worried about risk assessment. They're worried about the 3 T's, and they're considering how easy is it for me to step into this program and do business with you. Make it easy for people, because if you do everything else that I've told you through this episode, it's pretty easy to show somebody how investing in real estate as a private lender is a very safe, secure, comfortable, good place to be that pays a cash flow, that pays a higher dividend or yield, and is smart. And it gives people the opportunity to diversify out of the market and into an asset-backed investment. So that's the difference between hard money and private money in quite a bit of detail. And we really broke this down, and we really talked about the differences. And here towards the end, I've given you some steps and some processes that you can take to go get your own private money. So friends, I hope this was helpful. This has been another one for the books for the Real Estate Mogul podcast. We'll see you in the next one. Hey, do you have what it takes to build a successful real estate investing business or scale your existing business to the next level, but you feel like you've hit a brick wall and there's something holding you back? If you answered yes, then my team of experienced real estate investor business development consultants wants to talk to you. We want to talk about a hands-on learning experience where you'll put in the work and we'll guide you through every step to make money together. Our goal is to create success stories that we'll use to continue to grow the real estate mogul community. Plus, I'm always looking for ways to expand my real estate investing business into new markets, create more passive income, and expand my money lending business. So my team of professional real estate investor coaches are looking for ways to make more money by helping students close more deals. We put our heads together and decided to bring on a small number of folks into our community with the goal of creating your success stories each and every month. Now, this is not for everyone, and there are a few requirements to being accepted into the program. But if you're ready for the next level, are ready to join our success team and work directly with one of the experienced real estate investors on my team, and if you're willing to put in the work and follow our guidance, go to realestatemogul.com/success to learn more. You'll learn what I'm looking for, exactly how the program works, and what you'll get from us. You'll also learn what we expect from you. Do it right now. Go to realestatemogul.com/success, and I'll see you on the next page.